The situation surrounding this DanDaDan edit, as well as the voice actor AJ Beckles, the English voice actor for Okarun in DanDaDan, is actually continuing to proliferate. Things are still getting even crazier. If you haven't seen my prior videos on this topic, please consider watching them for additional context. Otherwise, you're definitely going to be out of the loop with everything that's happened. Another important thing to note regarding these sort of edits is that tensions have been building for literal years. I saw some people thinking that this was like the first time this sort of situation has occurred, and that's absolutely not the case, as what we're seeing happen now is really the culmination of Asian artists being sick of double standards and sick of how they've been getting harassed for literal years by the same groups of people that have these double standards, which is also something that I've been covering routinely on this channel for years. So many of you are probably very familiar with this stuff. But just to very quickly give a few previous examples, there was a situation where an Asian artist drew Nessa, and Nessa was depicted lighter than she's usually depicted, to which this artist received tremendous harassment. Another time, there was an artist who drew Kaya from Genshin Impact, and similarly, this artist was accused of lightening Kaya, to which this artist received also tremendous harassment. But on top of that, a bunch of people on Twitter ripping this person's art and editing Kaya to be darker than this artist depicted them as. Eventually, that artist deleted their entire account. There was another situation where an artist drew Kaya from Genshin Impact as well as D-Luke and some of the female characters. Maybe that's like Jean and Lumine or something. And as you can see, the art is literally in black and white. But that didn't stop these weirdo Twitter police, these terminally online freaks, from harassing this artist, saying that they didn't draw Kaya dark enough, despite once again the art literally being in black and white. And they insulted this artist and took the art, editing it to make Kaya black. For some reason, they also made D-Luke black as well, seemingly just to mess with and harass the artist. The artist even asking him to stop, to which they doubled down. And ultimately, the artist decided to delete their entire account. As you can see from one of the final tweets that artist made, they were talking about how these people were causing them tremendous amounts of stress, and all they wanted to do was post the art that they made for people and themselves to enjoy. There's actually even more to that situation without jumping down the entire rabbit hole, but one of the main people who harassed that artist would go on throughout the years to harass numerous other artists, also make a bunch of alt accounts where they would harass people and continually play victim, and doing this really weird thing where they would constantly change their age. Sometimes they would say they're like 16, then they'd say they're 13, things like that. And a lot of people would defend this person, saying like, oh, they're just making edits, it's not a big deal. But eventually they became so notorious for all of this stuff, including one of the final situations being when they harassed a Lumine artist and tried to get her to take her life, that nobody was defending this person anymore. And they had been completely exposed by various people on Twitter, including myself in a video that I made covering the situation, and the harasser getting a taste of their own medicine and going on to delete every single one of their accounts. I'll give you one more final example here as something that's a little bit different from the sort of things that we've covered so far, and then we'll move on to the current news. So in this final example, there was an Asian artist who drew ship art of Genshin Impact characters, to which they got harassed for simply drawing straight ship art. The people harassing them all offended that this artist was not drawing Yuri. To be quite frank, all this stuff is so petty and stupid that even just explaining it is making me like in disbelief, even though I've talked about this stuff before. It's just all so weird, man. I seriously don't know what's wrong with these Twitter police types of people. And keep in mind, those are only a few examples of videos I've made covering this sort of thing for years. There's probably well over a dozen videos I've got on topics like this. And so after years of this stuff going on, people are sick of artists getting harassed for drawing a character a bit lighter, etc., and the double standards that Twitter police have when they're darkening characters. This once again now taking us to the recent situation with the DanDaDan art, and how many people in Japan were calling this a racist depiction, to which the English voice actor for Okarun changed his profile pic to that depiction of Okarun with a darkened skin, but it being a very momentary thing, I believe lasting less than 24 hours, as many people in Japan began to call for this person to lose their job, and other people dug up racist tweets that this voice actor had made, once again pointing out double standards. The Japanese tweet demanding for AJ to lose his job now has over 127,000 likes on Twitter and over 62 million views on Twitter. For comparison, just 2 days ago when I talked about that situation, that tweet had around 17,000 likes. In other words, the situation, as mentioned previously, is continuing to proliferate, and AJ has also taken his next action as well, that being deleting his entire Twitter account, although it does seem to be a temporary thing based off statements that he has made on his Blue Sky account that we'll take a look at in a moment. Before we do that, here's some of the responses at the top from Japanese people. This one reading, instead of taking over Japanese works, he should create original manga with black protagonists. A rather upset response to that would read, "Oh, my bad. I didn't know they broke into the author's office, held him at gunpoint, and hijacked the manga, forcing for all the characters to be made black. It's one small piece of art. Y'all are whining like losers for real." To which another Japanese person says, "Not everything must be about you. Draw your own characters. If you change something, you want to make it better. Means you think original version is inferior. You invalidate Japanese people's feelings and call the art small. You don't like if we make black characters Asian, right?" Another one saying, "Honestly, I just want anime to be entertaining. The original creators are the ones who breathe life into the characters after all." And this one saying, "The character that the author brought to life is removed, and someone else is introduced. I would like people to understand that if they have no respect for the work, they should not get involved, and that excessive action will only create further division." It seems like if the harassment and double standard stuff wasn't occurring for years, that the tensions would not be so high right now. And it's not even just Japanese people who are sick of the double standards. There's been a lot of people in the West of various demographics, including lots of black people, talking about how they're also sick of these double standards. That takes us to AJ's Blue Sky account, where he says, "I deactivated my Twitter so the racists have nothing to interact with. Don't worry, I'm fine, guys." As well as, "Yo boy will be back soon." Maybe he really did deactivate just because of these racist messages that he's referring to. However, when there's a tweet with over 100,000 likes from Japanese people calling for him to lose his job over the recent incident, as well as other people digging up racist tweets that he had made in the past, it's caused a lot of people to speculate if he's just trying to dodge that stuff. As always, of course, come to your own conclusions. Something else that I find very interesting is that so far we've actually seen a lack of other voice actors defending AJ. Previously, during situations like this where a controversial situation is going viral in the VA space on social media, it would be very common to see a number of other voice actors also getting involved. And yet that doesn't seem to be the case right now. Let me know why you think that might be. Perhaps some of them are actually in disagreement with AJ, or maybe they see how many people in Japan are calling AJ out and they want to avoid that also potentially happening to them. Of course, there's also been this ongoing situation with SAG-AFTRA and general concerns that voice actors have about potentially being replaced by AI voices. So maybe now a lot of them are instead just trying to play things safe instead of getting involved in controversies like they used to, or at the very least dialing it back a bit. And lastly, regarding the person who made the Okarun Momo edit to begin with, there would be other concerns raised by various artists on Twitter. For example, this tweet got over 14,000 likes that reads, "So much controversy over this, but my concern is that they sell paintovers/edits of other people's art. Putting all the racism debate to a side, someone who steals art and sells getting 40k plus followers for it is just sad." What's being referred to is how that person apparently sells black edits for $15 a piece. A response saying, "Watching this dumpster fire unfold is just sad in general. Sending love to the animators because I never saw anyone talk about this." To which the OP says, "People are blinded by hatred, and of course no one has any respect for animators because it's quote-unquote official art. As if it just magically appears and people don't work on it for hours." The other person saying, "The more you think about this whole situation, the more things come to mind. No hate, of course. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear magically, and they have to work on it for hours and then get overlooked constantly." People attempting to find a middle ground here somewhat. As another response reads, "OP can draw. I slid through the media thinking the same thing because let's be real, that's an edit, not a fan art. Hopefully she sells art and not edits. Fan arts are more appreciated than edits." And the OP ending by saying, "Very talented kid. I really hope they start making originals and sell those." That certainly does seem like a wise suggestion, and hopefully things regarding this topic overall can get a more positive conclusion. However, for that to happen, people will need to start being more honest about the double standards that are out there, instead of being in denial about them and or using them as some faux justification to harass people. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for tuning in, and if you enjoyed my coverage, consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate ya, and I'll see you in the next one.